Hello and welcome to this episode of Simply Saturday. For today's card, we are returning to some of these pear products that we used last week, but an entirely different looking card. So let me show you the stamp set. Actually, I have the bundle, so it's the stamp set and dies, Perfectly Pears. And there is some designer series paper that coordinates with this called Painterly Pears. Now, if you saw last week's episode, I mentioned a few things, and so I'm springboarding off of that. I mentioned that I had a bunch of scraps from a workshop that I did. So I literally started the idea of this card just with the scraps that I already had, trimming them down to size a little bit. But I'm building the card with that as the inspiration. So my card base today is Darling Duckling cardstock. Today I did a 4¼ inch by 11-inch piece, scored and folded at 5½. Now sometimes we have a card that opens like this, and that's a nice way to do it. Today I'm going to have it still be a long card sideways like this with the fold on the left side. So looks like there's a little flaw in the paper or something got on it. So we'll use that as the inside because we're going to cover it. How about that? All right, there's our card base. Then I also returned to the two-tone cardstock. This is a little bit lighter weight than the rest of the colored cardstock. Once again, I chose Old Olive, and it has a light and a darker side. Last week we used the lighter side and we die cut it. This time I'm going to have the darker side showing. It's just going to be a layer right on top. So let's go ahead and add that front layer. All right, that's going to create a nice background for the designer series paper. As I mentioned, I already had some scraps. They were already cut to this width, which is I think 2¼ inches. Yes, they were already cut to 2¼ inches. They had varying lengths, so I just shortened them to 3¾ inches. These are going to go on the front. Now, 2 doesn't quite look right. 3 would be nice if they were narrower because we could fit a third. So we're still just going to run with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this one over here on the right side of the paper. All right. This is a fun way to show you how sometimes you can just take a bunch of bits and pieces that you already have and just creatively pull them together to create a project. All right, so I'm putting this towards the right side and centering it between the top and the bottom. All right, so that is in place, and that is my most, I would say, the boldest print, because this is a little bit more subtle. That's the piece that is going to continue to be more of the focus. In other words, it's going to show. This one's going to get covered up just a little bit. So we'll take this piece, it's the same size. We're going to go ahead and add it to the front of the card like so. And see how there's this little gap here that looks a little empty. We're going to fix that as we go. So let's go ahead and attach this one. All right, so I'm less concerned about the middle part where these two almost touch, and more concerned about this edge looking pretty straight. So I'm just gonna straighten that out a little bit. All right, now we have that piece in place. I loved the back side of this paper. This is beautiful. It has a lot of the Secret Sea color in it, but I love the back side of it, that little grid. We're gonna use this to kind of bridge the papers together. Let's go ahead and add that one. And then we still need to address that little left side that kind of has that open space that's not really even. And we said that we would come back and deal with it. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to put this piece on. This piece measures 5¼ inches long by, I think it's an inch. Let's double check. Just a smidge wider than 1 inch. Again, I'm using scraps that I already had. So if you're having to cut this piece, 1 inch would be fine. About 1 1/8 would be what I have. You could even go 1 1/4 inch. Okay, I already had this white circle from, oh goodness, what is this? Stylish Shapes. That's what it is, Stylish Shapes. I already had one of these. Probably cut it for something else, didn't end up using it, so let's use it. So this I'm going to go ahead and pull over to the left. Now we are correcting or using this to our benefit, that little gap there that didn't really have any designer series paper. So now it's going to not look like a mistake, and it's going to look like it was on purpose. We're going to do some stamping on this piece. Then I took a quick look at the stamps and the dies, and I noticed this little die. You can see that there's this die with the flowers and then this little cluster. So I wanted to see what it looked like die cut out. So I did that on Petal Pink cardstock. You can see that here, and that gave us this little cluster of flowers. I think we're going to end up using this to, again, kind of fill that spot right there. But let's do our stamping here, and then we'll decide if we're going to use this or not. All right, last week we used the smaller set of 2 pairs. So today I wanted to go ahead and use the 1 large pair. And as I'm thinking through it, I'm not sure that I want to do that outline in black. I think I want to do Mossy Meadow for the outline of my pear. Now this is a large stamp, and it's going to pretty much cover my circle. I'm going to pull it a little bit to the left, like so. All right, let's see what we get. Okay, that looks good. Let's jump back to Darling Duckling as I did last week, because it makes such a pretty pear color. And now I have the second part of that image that's going to finish that pear. So we'll get that stamped here, right inside our outline. Let's see what we get. Oh, I love it. Okay, I'm not even really like a pear person. You know how you love certain things? People love strawberries or people love lemons. Pears are not really my thing, but this is so stunning that I'm becoming a pear person, at least in crafting. Okay, I think we're done with Darling Duckling. We're going to need to add something to this. We're going to add our words to this. I think we'll make this a thank you card. We could do hello, thank you, friend, congratulations. We used this one last time. Okay, let's do, how about hello? Because then you could always turn it into a birthday or a thank you or something by your message on the inside. So let's go with hello. That's friend. Here it is. And then I think we're going to use this little speckle as well. All right. Hello is going to get stamped in back to Mossy Meadow. Oops. Sorry about that. All right, this is where we're headed. This is going to go on here like so. Let's add our words. Okay. So, adding the hello up here. Get my pear kind of straight. Add that right there. I like it. And then let's add a little bit of this speckle. I think it's going to be really nice. And for the speckle, I'm going to use Basic Beige ink. I've used Basic Beige cardstock quite a bit, not as much the ink color. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. I've got a scrap here of white cardstock just so I can see kind of what that's going to look like. All right, Basic Beige, the ink color, not so much the cardstock, because here's the cardstock. I'm going to put that on the inside. This looks a little bit more beige to me. The ink looks a little greenish, but it very well could adjust as it dries completely. So let's continue with our idea, and let's just add some speckling to this piece. You almost can't see it if you stamp it off. All right, we're gonna have to just go full strength. When you stamp it off and then go to stamp it, it's almost invisible. Okay, so there we've got, I think we need a little bit more speckle on the pear. There we go. All right. This is going to go here. We're going to pop it up with some dimensionals, and then we're going to go back and decide about that little cluster of flowers, if we think that it's necessary or not. It kind of looks nice and it picks up a little bit of that pink. Let's do it. All right, couple dimensionals on here. Ooh, I hope that didn't land in my ink pad when it flew up. I'm going to turn it over and inspect it. Usually I get these closed and out of the way to avoid that kind of thing. Okay, we're safe. All right, we're going to get this put into place. And now we're using up that left side. We're camouflaging the fact that we had kind of a funky gap right there. And now if we're going to add the flowers, it's now or never. What do you think? I'm not sure that it needs it, but it kind of looks like it needs a little something up here. What if we tuck it down there? Okay, I kind of like that better. Instead of against the white, I think it's too bold, but against the green, I think it works. I'm just going to put a couple of little dots of glue around here. I could use my little tweezers for this. That would be handy. Okay. Let's tuck this under like so. Again, we kind of wanted to fill up a little more of that space. There we have that. Oops, get in there. And then last week we used the gorgeous ribbon that coordinates with this. I think what I'll show you are the embellishments this time. And they are called, where are they? They are here. They are called low profile sparkle dots. And they're clearly in 2 shades of green and some yellow. I think this middle green is going to be perfect. And so I'm going to get one of these off of the backing sheet. And place, ooh, do I even want one on the pear? I think I do. Okay, one. I'll do a second small one. And then one of the larger ones. Those are really beautiful. All right, I could go ahead and pull it down this way or keep it in here. I don't know. What do you think? I'm thinking over here creates too much of a line, and I really want more of a triangle. So here, here, and here, I think is going to, maybe on the yellow paper. Sometimes I don't have to think that hard about it, but I clearly did. Okay, there we have it. Now, last week in an effort to keep that video nice and short. I did not actually do the inside of the card. We talked about it, but I didn't do it. Today we're going to do the inside of the card. So I have a piece of basic beige, 4 inches by 5 1/4. That's going to go on the inside, and it needs to have either some stamping or a little bit of paper added to it. This one might be a little busy. Let's do some stamping. So I'm going to take that smaller pear stamp, the little set of 2. I have no idea what this is going to look like on the basic beige cardstock, so you're learning right along with me. We'll do Mossy Meadow, and this might be enough. We might just want the pears stamped and call it good. Or let's see if we want to stamp the center of the pears. Actually, I think it's kind of striking. It's just enough to tie it together with the front of the card. I'm not sure what it would look like adding the inside of the pears. Probably off camera. I will experiment with that and see. But we're going to go ahead and leave this as is. Attach it to the inside of the card so that it's finished. And I will already tell you what I'm going to do for the envelope. I will go back to that nice strip that was sitting here as an option, and I will trim this down and add it to my envelope so that the envelope is coordinating. All right, this is going to go right here on the inside. I like how the beige cardstock, basic beige, looks against the darling Duckling. And instead of just a plain white, it kind of changes it up a little bit. And then of course we have our green pears stamped there. And there it is. Look at what we did. We started literally with some scraps, used what we had, and created this adorable little card. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy stamping.